She's so fine. Hell of a hell of a blows my mind. Hell of a lights my day.
What's good, guys? This story came out yesterday in an article wrote by Niera Savage for the Atlanta Black Star. I want to thank my friend Marie722 for sending it to me. If you have not heard the Nimali Henry story, you should. It's worth a listen. You called the police and sent her to jail. Family of young black mother who died in Louisiana jail after staffers ignored her illness says white father won't let them see her now 7-year-old daughter. The family of a young woman who died in 2014 in the Louisiana jail just months after giving birth says they have not been permitted to see their deceased relative's now 7-year-old child despite their efforts, a local station is reporting. Nimali Henry was a 19-year-old mother of a 4-month-old baby when she died of a rare but treatable blood disorder in her cell 10 days after arriving at the St. Bernard Parish Jail on April 1, 2014, and after deputies ignored her pleas for medical treatment. 4 of the former St. Bernard Parish Sheriff's deputies who were responsible for Henry were sentenced on March the 11th in connection with her death after pleading guilty to federal charges. Now, 7 years later, Henry's family says their only encounter with the child since her mother's death was a chance meeting at a dentist's office near where Henry's grandmother lives. According to Henry's sister, Deshawna Henry, the family wasn't even permitted to bring her infant daughter, Nelijah, to her mother's funeral. We couldn't even have Nelijah for the funeral. We couldn't take her with us, she said to CBS affiliate WWL-TV recently. It's been 7 years, Henry's sister said. I haven't seen my niece. I haven't held her. I haven't nothing. Nimali's family told the station she had a rocky relationship history with her daughter's father, and the pair had split up soon after their daughter was born. After Nimali was released from a hospital stay in March of 2014, she went to retrieve Nelijah. The baby was staying with her father, Nicholas Connors, who is white, and Henry found him at home with a new girlfriend, Chelsea. Nimali and Connors argued and fought that day, according to police reports, and she left without her daughter, after Connors called the St. Bernard Sheriff's deputies on her. When Nimali tried 2 days later to pick up her daughter, this time she was told the baby was with Connors and his girlfriend at his girlfriend's house. The couple provided Nimali with the address, but when she got there, they refused to let her see Nelijah, according to cell phone video evidence and a sheriff's department report. Another altercation ensued between Henry and Chelsea, and Connors again called the sheriff's department. Nimali again left without her daughter before deputies showed up. Originally, Connors told deputies he didn't want to press charges, but he later called the sheriff's office saying he wanted her arrested. She faced minor charges, including simple battery, disturbing the peace, and unauthorized entry, and her bond was set high at $25,000, more than her family could afford, despite the fact that she had a clean record. WWL-TV reports that records in St. Bernard Parish show that bond in most domestic disturbance cases with a simple battery is set at $1,000 or less. 2 months before her arrest, Henry had been diagnosed with a life-threatening blood disorder known as TTP, which requires special medication. During her stay at the jail, her family tried desperately to ensure she got the medicine she needed, but the pleas were ignored. The 4 deputies convicted in Henry's death include Captain Andre Dominic, Corporal Timothy Williams, and deputies Deborah Becknell and Lisa Vaccarella, who were also charged with lying to the FBI. Vaccarella told agents she'd seen Henry walking fine, when in reality she'd watched her collapse on the floor and then closed the door on her. Grainy footage played during the trial shows Nimali passing out and bleeding on a hard bunk in her cell. Both Henry and fellow inmates pleaded for help, but jail staffers accused her of faking her symptoms and denied her medical attention until her death. They knew. They ignored her and they watched her die, her Aunt Shay Abraham told WWL-TV.
think about my sister's last hours, days. It just makes me very sick.
Nimali was a 19-year-old mom when she died of a rare but treatable blood disorder after 10 days inside of the St. Bernard Parish prison. Denied a trip to the hospital. Denied the medicine that would have saved her life.
Still have a hard time to sleep. I just can't understand how people could be so wicked.
Mocked by jailers who accused her of faking her illness. Put in an isolation cell. Passing out repeatedly as other inmates urged deputies to help. Nimali died on April 1st, 2014. It took 7 tense years, but in March, 4 of the former St. Bernard Sheriff's deputies who were responsible for Nimali were sentenced in connection with her death.
I don't want them to suffer from it, but I want them to actually have a change in heart.
But there's a lot more to the sequence of events that landed this high school senior in jail. Nimali had just given birth to a baby girl, Nelijah, 4 months earlier. She had already split up with the girl's father, Nicholas Connors, after a troubled relationship.
He would often try to stop by the house. There was a time where even they had to try to get a restraining order.
Nimali was 33 weeks pregnant when she called police after an altercation that left her cell phone broken and her earrings yanked from her ears. The police report shows she declined to press charges. Things went very differently 5 months later. Nimali had just been released from the hospital when she tried to get her baby, who is now 4 months old. This video and a police report show that Connors had already taken up with a new girlfriend, Chelsea Lefebvre. In a 2-day span, Nimali and Nicholas had 2 heated encounters when she found him with Lefebvre. The first time, Nimali returned home and found them together. Connors called the police, saying Nimali punched him.
And I feel like they pretty much trapped her into a situation.
But later, Connors called the sheriff's office and said he had changed his mind. He wanted Nimali arrested. 2 days later, they had the baby and gave Nimali the address. But when she arrived, there was a skirmish. Connors called for the police. Despite witnesses describing a confrontation between the 2 women, only Nimali was arrested.
I believe she had the bracelet from the hospital still on the wrist at the time of being arrested. It could have been stopped immediately, but obviously they wanted her to go to jail.
Nimali's bail on 3 relatively minor charges was set at $25,000, more than her family could afford. Judge John Juneau has never responded to our calls for an explanation of the bail amount.
Which I found out it was $25,000. And I was just like, oh my God.
In our previous stories, we documented that the bail Juneau set on Nimali's charges, simple battery, disturbing the peace, unauthorized entry, was the highest amount set for those offenses, and even more serious ones, of any judge in any case in that parish all of that year. That same month, Juneau set bail at $10,000 on a man booked with disturbing the peace and a far more serious charge of aggravated battery. In August, she set bail at $13,000 on a man booked on the exact same charges as Nimali, even though that man had prior arrests compared to Nimali's clean record.
Somebody needs to look into why the judge gave that high bond.
Barry Bernatus is a former FBI analyst. He's the whistleblower who first alerted federal authorities to look into Nimali's death. During that time, months after Nimali died, he said he received text messages that alarmed him.
Right after I started looking into the case, I got text messages from Judge Juneau asking me to come meet with her. And all those text messages were given to the FBI.
Judge Juneau isn't the only figure who has maintained a 7-year silence about this case. St. Bernard Sheriff Jimmy Pullman has repeatedly declined to comment, but that wasn't always the case.
When I first started investigating this case, Sheriff Pullman came here to the WWL-TV station here on Rampart. He urged us not to do a story, saying that Nimali Henry died of natural causes and any allegations to the contrary were being pushed by a political rival.
While the federal probe into Nimali's death proceeded slowly, other things moved quickly. In May 2014, Lefebvre called the police to complain that Connors was harassing her after they broke up. In June, Connors went to court to file succession papers, claiming Nimali's property and asserting himself as the baby's sole custodian. And in January of 2015, he filed this wrongful death lawsuit against the sheriff's office on behalf of his daughter. The suit asked for $13 million in damages.
We couldn't even have Elijah for the funeral. We couldn't take her with us.
Other than a chance encounter at a dentist's office by Nimali's grandmother, the family says they have never been given an opportunity to see Elijah.
And he said to me, well, you will never see Elijah. So he told me from his own mouth, I will never see Elijah.
It couldn't be soon enough for us. It's been 7 years. I haven't seen my niece. I haven't held her. I haven't. Nothing.
We want you in our life so bad it hurts.
Kerwin Walters, Nimali's uncle, lives in California. He has a daughter the same age as the niece he has never met. Early on, he texted Nicholas and Nicholas's parents, who are raising the child. As you can see, his request for a meeting went from friendly to despondent. At one point, they promised a meeting, but never showed up, leaving Walters waiting for hours. But Connors and the family raising Elijah have hardly been quiet. They are behind a website called Justice for Nimali. The site updates the criminal case, raises money for billboards, and advocates for criminal justice reform.
Now you're promoting Black Lives Matter, but Nimali's life didn't matter when you called the police and sent her to jail.
Do you think that it's an attempt to fool people into thinking that it's you and your family?
But of course, they were asking for money at a time where we're fighting for justice.
My request for an interview with Nicholas Connors and his family was denied.
However, their attorney emailed a statement that reads, in part, "We ask that you respect our privacy regarding our interfamily matter. We are hopeful that a reconciliation takes place in the future when the trauma on all sides is properly dealt with." Before the deputies were sentenced by U.S. District Judge Ivan Lamel, he heard victim impact statements. One by one, over 2 days, Nimali's relatives offered heartbreaking accounts of their pain and loss.
Our side of the family does not exist, but you're going to reap and try to reap a significant benefit from that loss.
This court transcript shows the judge asking about that request more than $300,000.
That's what Nimali died for they to have money.
Judge Lamel pointed out that restitution law in this kind of case only provides for concrete expenses, such as a funeral.
Have been expenses that could be covered under the law, starting with burial, funeral. How much did Nicholas and his family pay for?
None. None.
In March, Dominic, who was also serving as the jail medical officer at the time of Nimali's death, was given 5 years for violating her civil rights. Timothy Williams, the first to plead guilty, was sentenced to 4 years and 9 months. Backnell and Vaccarella were sentenced to 3 years and 21 months, respectively, for lying to the FBI. It was so hard for me to process, I couldn't even pronounce it. In May of 2014, after Chelsea, the new girlfriend, and Connor split up, he filed papers to claim Nimali Henry's property and establish himself as Elijah's sole custodian. The following year, he filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the sheriff's office that asked for $18 million in damages. The child is currently in the care of her paternal grandparents. Nimali Henry's family hasn't filed any lawsuits. Her grandmother, Prisca Anslem, told WWL-TV Connors once told her, "Well, you will never see Elijah." So he told me from his own mouth, "I will never see Elijah," Anslem added. Henry's uncle, Kerwin Walters, is raising a daughter Elijah's age. "We want you in our life so bad it hurts," he told the station. Text messages reportedly show that communication between Walters and Connors and his family quickly devolved after Henry's death. Walters says he attempted to meet Nelijah at one point, but Connors and his parents stood him up. Henry's family has accused Connors and his family of profiting off of her death after they did not participate in her funeral or burial. The Connors are behind a fundraising website called Justice for Nimali, and that's the number 4. Now you're promoting Black Lives Matters, Walters asked, because the mother's life didn't matter when you called the police and sent her to jail. An Instagram page of the same name features images of an Elijah and includes a link to the website in the bio. The paternal family has issued a statement saying their primary focus has always been the physical, mental health, and well-being of Nimali's daughter. This situation angers me in a lot of ways. Nimali Henry didn't deserve to die in that jail. It was because of the negligence of the staff, and the time that they received for that is crazy. Also, the judge in this case with the $25,000 bond is just, that needs to be dealt with. I don't know if the Department of Justice needs to step in. Somebody needs to step in. You've got an FBI analyst saying it's not right and blowing the whistle on it. So that right there is a problem in and of itself. Then you've got the granddaughter, or the daughter of Nimali Henry, the niece, the great niece. The family hasn't done anything to Connors. That's the last remaining piece, if you will, of Nimali Henry. And they can't even see her. It just sickens me that he's using the child as leverage to punish this family. Something should be done in this case. I think we should be saying her name. Justice for Nimali. This case is just, this is my first time hearing about it. So I'm definitely aware of it now. I'm conscious of what's going on, and I'm going to stay up on this case. Thanks for watching, guys.